Hello, this is Felix Walker, and this is my Unit 6 Coaching for Performance and Fitness. So, we were asked to design a job specification for the job advert of a multi-sports coach at BHASVIC. This is what I've put in my specification. Moving on, so the first of 5 skills we have is rapport. Building rapport is when a coach has excellent and trustworthy relationship with their performer or performers. How do you build rapport? So one way of doing it, which is quite common, is finding common ground between coach and performer. Although building rapport is a slow process, it can happen quicker if you work in close proximity. So that's like one-on-ones with athletes and things like that. It's harder to build rapport in groups as there are multiple individuals to build rapport with. An example for reliability and likability, which are associated characteristics, these characteristics can help you establish good interpersonal relationships. For example, athletes put trust into the coach to help them improve technique and ability. If there's no rapport, athletes won't engage with the sessions and it will take longer to give instructions. So next we have communication. Communication is really important. There are 2 types of communication, verbal and non-verbal. An example of verbal would be giving feedback. So after a match or in training, you give feedback on technique, or before a match or in training, you give some motivation towards your athletes. You try and use appropriate terminology, volume and tone. Secondly, you have non-verbal communication. So this would be demonstrations and listening, active listening, to athletes and what their perception of situations are. And also parents who ask questions regarding their child, you can give feedback and you can listen to what they have to say. Then you have confidence. So confidence is about motivating athletes, and when you motivate athletes, you can display confidence and it reflects in your athletes' determination and execution. Furthermore, non-verbal, an example of non-verbal is if coaching young athletes, you kneel down so you're on the same eye level to show that you're giving them your full attention. Diplomacy. So diplomacy is the art of dealing with people in a sensitive and tactful way. And this came from Oxford University. So an example would be sensitive. That's an associated characteristic, and that can be shown as keeping everyone satisfied, including parents and athletes, making sure people get game time. And you have to be sensitive to the fact that some people won't get game time as much as others. So also, when dealing with people, coaches must be able to diffuse situations. So that could be an argument between players to allow for a smoother and efficient session. Diffusing arguments will ensure that disputes do not reoccur between the athletes during this time. Also, when giving feedback to an athlete, it is sensible to do it in a diplomatic manner. For example, pull them over to the side for a one-on-one to give them some privacy and eliminate distractions so the athlete fully engages their attention to what they have to say. Motivation. I define motivation as a general willingness to do something, and there are lots of different examples of motivation. To ensure athletes maintain motivation, a coach must adequately plan for progressive training, which challenges and gives them a drive to participate. An example of positive motivation would be in football training, where internally an athlete will try their best to improve and learn by rising to challenges and participate for the love of the game, which would lead to fulfilled, happy, and persistent participation. Or externally, if athletes are playing well, reward and recognition will come, leading to success and a feeling of success. And that success would be trophies, etc. So what I mean when I mean internal and external is intrinsic and extrinsic. So the internal drive and the external drive, or the external drive to drive for things like trophies and rewards. So next, negative motivation. Again, in football training as an example, internally, athletes will be fear-driven and resistant to participating due to the risk of failure, which leads to athletes feeling unhappy despite some success coming from training sessions. Externally, athletes will believe they must play well or win, otherwise they're at risk of losing positions and feeling inadequate, which can lead to constant anxiety, pressure, unhappiness, even if some success comes from the participant during the session. So finally, we have organisation. Good organisation will allow coaches to be adaptable, responsive, and appropriate. So, organisation can be split into two groups, which is participants and equipment. Examples of participants would be splitting it into ability groups, selecting positions, sex and age, things like that. Equipment examples would be safety, so a risk assessment, adapted equipment, kit, length of sessions, and drills or progression. All of this helps adapt the session, making it appropriate for all participants. When looking at a section of a session, a coach must consider before, during, and after the session. For example, before, safety, equipment, and a session plan must be considered to allow the session to run smoothly. This helps to maintain quality, so during the session, participants enjoy this experience. During the session, players' time management and appropriate equipment must be considered to ensure that the session is efficiently performed, so less time is wasted. And after, constructive or positive feedback must be considered to ensure participants develop and understand how to develop their technique. Thank you.